What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Tech MLB Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG, but y'all know him as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, what's happening, bro?
What up, motherfuckers?
Loving it, man. We got to finally have a decent slate, man.
Yeah, it's a good one. Really good. Got to actually do some thinking.
Got to do some thinking, indeed. We got pitching. As a matter of fact, it's like the first. It feels like the first real slate, and I say real slate because you have to make those decisions that you always have to make normally, like during the previous seasons. Where do I spend up for the elite pitching, or do I settle for mid tier, or whatever the case may be? And like you got to pick pitching, bats, or balanced. It's like, it's just that's what MLB DFS has always been for the most part. But we haven't had that because we've had the expensive pitchers either in bad matchups or on pitch counts or both. And today we may have a little bit of that, but at least we have options.
Do that.
It's nice. It's glorious. If you are new to the Wise Take Nation and you're just finding us on Twitch or YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notifications bell. You came to the right place for some DFS content. We got NBA starting up tomorrow, so we'll have some NBA content for you tonight. Tomorrow's NBA stream will actually be pre-recorded tonight with myself and the GOAT Paulie D, breaking down a 2-game slate, and then we'll be back for the pre-lock solo shows on Friday for the first actual NBA slate, if you will. But yeah, tomorrow will be a little bit of a weird day. But if you're new here today, this is what the deal normally is. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. The likes really help us out, allow us to continue to do thy dirty on that YouTube. So please make sure you hit that like button. Shout out to Patio Joe in the chat. Shout out to MG in the chat. King B says, "Let's get dirty." I like the way you think, bro. I like the way you think. And ready to rock, man. We have both FanDuel and DraftKings both starting at the same time. It's a glorious day when that happens. It seems like they're always trying to be different from each other, and I get that, But nice to see them at the same time. We don't have to rush through any particular site. We can just cover them both with these. And I'm excited, bro. I'm excited.
Indeed.
It's dirty time. As always, guys, if you have questions, we try to answer the questions at the end of the show. But if there's any good ones pertaining to the topic we are discussing, which is rare because you guys are on a little bit of a delay, then we'll stop and answer. So keep that chat active. Again, hit the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And it is time to get dirty, as King B says. Let's start off with pitching, Paulie. We've got a couple guys. We got Degrom. We got Garrett Cole. We got a lot of guys up top. We got a lot of guys in the mid tier. And then we have a couple guys in the value tier, depending on what you want to call value tier. On one pitcher sites, the decision's real tough because it's deep. On two pitcher sites, you're grateful to have all the options. Paulie, talk to me about some of the pitchers you're looking into today.
All right. I like both guys on the high end, Degrom and Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole saw the Orioles once last year, struck out like 14 over 7 innings, gave up 1 earned, put up almost 40 DraftKings points. Their lineup is viciously ugly. Whenever you got Jose Iglesias batting third, you're in big trouble. I just really don't think there's a way he doesn't post 30 plus DraftKings and 55 plus FanDuel today. With this just horrendous lineup that Baltimore put out. He looked pretty good in the first 5 innings against Washington. And he's just, one of the best pitchers in baseball against one of the worst offenses in baseball. Kind of simple math there. Don't overthink that. And, Degrom is going to be significantly lower owned, in my opinion, especially on DraftKings. He's significantly more expensive than Garrett Cole. And, taking on a perceived better opponent. And yeah, Boston's better than Baltimore, but not by much right now. This lineup is fairly ugly as well. Degrom's got the better park, but, you're going to give me cheaper Garrett Cole. I'm playing that over Degrom. But I do like them both. But it is definitely not going to be easy to get them into a lineup with any of the desirable stacks today. But there's plenty of good options as we go down the list. Chris Paddock, Matt Boyd, Brandon Woodruff, Andrew Haney, 7.9 to 9K, that range. I like all 4 of those guys. I think Paddock's going to be the chalkiest pitcher on the slate. If not him, Garrett Cole. But again, if you're getting Garrett Cole, it's going to be tough to pair him with one of these guys and put out like a solid 5-man stack of one of the preferred teams out there. So you kind of got to make a decision, or you do like a 5-man with 3 just massive punts and jam in the stack that you want with the pitchers you want. It's doable. But I like Boyd, lefty against the Royals. A couple of those guys do have good BVP. There's a couple of new bats like Maycal Franco batting cleanup that, has traditionally hit lefties well. And Boyd, he's going to strike out a lot of guys and then give up a couple homers, So if those are solo homers, he'll still put out a good day. But if they're more than solos, then the start gets kind of ugly. Chris Paddock, we're just going to stream pitchers against the Giants. He's got big strikeout upside. Didn't have that in his first start, but his last warm up start, he struck out 8 over 5 innings, and this is the Giants, so definitely like him in that park. Woodruff against Pittsburgh, good park. I'm not in love with that. I went with Woodruff opening day, whatever opening slate, and he honestly didn't look great to me. But I don't want to have I don't want to just base off one start. Still think he's interesting, like the park. Pittsburgh bats have been one of the worst so far to start the year, and that's expected to continue. So I think you can certainly take a shot there. But they did not strike out a ton last year, and that appears to be the same thing so far this year. Then you got Haney against Seattle. Seattle's been scrappy, but they are really, last year at least, were bad against lefties. And Haney's, showed us some good strikeout upside. I think it was the A's his first start, and he was striking guys out. As we kind of go into the value world underneath that, I have some interest in Rich Hill. They were trying to put him on a pitch limit in his last warm up start, and he pitched so efficient they had to let him go further because he got through 5 innings and 40 something pitches. And the St. Louis bats outside of Goldschmidt have struggled against him and struggle against the curveball, which Rich Hill predominantly throws. That being said, I think you could also attack him, and Rich Hill's the king of the blister, and he really doesn't throw much. He throws a 90-mile-per-hour fastball and a lot of curveballs, and St. Louis has a lot of right-handed power, so I'm torn, but at 7-2, he's an interesting piece. And then down below, Joe Musgrove at 5-3. I know CK likes Milwaukee, so I'm not going to press this one too much. But at 5-3, he's if you want to pair somebody with Degrom or Garrett Cole, he just kind of makes sense. As I mentioned, good park. And the Milwaukee bats really just have not looked very good to me so far. I had them in a couple lineups yesterday, and outside of Hayura, they really didn't do very much. Doesn't mean they won't today, but if I'm going to come down here, I'm going to use Joe Musgrove. I think there's merit to either one of these punt guys, Javier Christian and Justin Dunn for Seattle, Christian of Houston. Both flame-throwing prospects, a lot of K upside, but tough opponents, and I prefer the bats. But, if you're building a lot of teams, I think I would work them in for the low ownership, high K upside at a low price. But predominantly, I want Garrett Cole, Chris Paddock, Andrew Haney, Woodruff, Boyd, and Rich Hill. That's kind of where I'm going to be living today.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I'll start up top with the Cole DeGrom scenario. The only reason I am picking more DeGrom, and the only reason I'm picking more DeGrom is simply ownership. Cole is in the better spot. There's no doubt about it. The only thing where DeGrom has the advantage is the park. DeGrom's pitching at home, where he's pitched better over his career. He's always pitched better at home. He's pitching at Citi Field, which is more of a pitching park. Other than that, it's still the Red Sox. The Red Sox have not looked good offensively, and they've been striking out a lot, but it's still the Red Sox. Cole has a matchup against the Orioles. Cole pitched 72 pitches, and we don't even know if that was a limitation because the game got called, so we didn't even get a chance. I agree with Paulie in that I think he was probably going to be done anyway because the Yankees do have a good bullpen. They trust their bullpen. And everything else. But needless to say, even if you go 70, 75 pitches, you'd expect to be at 80, 85 at least, if not 90 or above in the next start. So Cole is cheaper on DraftKings. I feel like he's going to be the most popular pitcher on the slate, or at least one of, and it makes sense as to why. He's phenomenal. But because of that, on DraftKings, I lean a little more towards DeGrom in tournaments. In cash games, to be clear, Garrett Cole's the guy. I don't think you mess around. I think you just play Cole. But in tournaments, to get a little bit different, hope for ownership, just hope in some way it just works out that way. I can understand going with Degrom. As far as the mid-tier goes, I'm not really interested in too many other spend-ups. On FanDuel, we're going by DraftKings pricing because Chris Paddock is technically a spend-up over there, but I'm going to talk about Paddock in this mid-tier here. And he's by far the best-looking mid-tier play that we have on the board, man. He looked awesome against Arizona. He's got an even better matchup today against the Giants in the Giants Park, which is one of the best pitching parks out there. So I like Paddock a lot. You find yourself in a dilemma. It's going to be about what bats you kind of go with. There's different approaches. You can either use a cheap stack, cheap batters, and go with like a Cole or Degrom with one of those guys that we talked about, like Paddock. Or you can go double mid-tier with guys like Haney, like Paulie said, who looked really good against the A's in his first start, only threw 65 pitches, racked up like 6 Ks. Looked awesome. And he's playing Seattle, an offense that we believe is worse than Oakland. So, and it's still a great park. So I'm fine with Haney if you want to go that route. Could be in that he only threw pitches in like the 65s. I don't see him going more than 80 as a max if he even reaches 80. That kind of has me a little hesitant because he has to be hyper efficient like he was against Oakland, which he obviously can, but there's no guarantee. Like I said, a lot of the mid-tier guys Paulie mentioned, I completely agree with. The Musgrove situation, I'll touch on him. And the only reason I'll touch on him is because I agree with you, Paulie, in that if there is one cheap guy, like if I'm dead set on playing like a Yankee stack, which we'll talk about the offenses, with playing Cole or Degrom or somebody expensive, Musgrove is the guy. He's underpriced severely on both sites. I thought he was going to be popular when I looked at some of the ownership projections. He really didn't seem to be all that popular. I was surprised. I thought a lot of people would prefer, but I guess it's because we have so many good options up top. People are going to try their best to get those guys in, and I understand that. But Musgrove gave up 2 home runs in his first game, so I do like the Brewer bats on the one hand. But again, if I was going to punt the position, if I was going to punt at pitcher, Musgrove is the clear standout. The Brewers have been striking out a ton. We saw Kyle Hendricks just mowed these dudes down, and his opening day start was the top pitcher on the slate, complete game shutout. We have a good park in Pittsburgh. We have really good hitting weather according to the weather tools that you look at across the industry. But it's still a good park overall. And again, like you said, Paulie, the Brewers have been kind of struggling to get going, man. Yelich just hit a homer, but he hasn't looked anything special so far. Just in general, the whole team is kind of sluggish to get going. So I definitely think if you are looking for a punt, Musgrove is definitely your guy. My reasoning for liking Milwaukee, number 1, they've seen him, they're familiar with him. Number 2, Musgrove did give up a couple home runs in that first start. So when he makes a mistake, it seems to be right over the middle of the plate. And number 3, I thought Musgrove was going to be more popular, but again, from what I see, it doesn't seem like he's going to be all that popular. So I think on pitching, we're pretty much on the same page, man. I definitely have Musgrove in the player pool. I don't have him on my main teams, but I do have him in the MME teams where I did like the 20 entry maxes. I worked him into those kind of teams to kind of hedge myself. But I definitely think he's a good play. And curious to hear your opinion on some of the offenses. Before we get to the offenses, though, like on a percentage basis, like are you just gonna go with the Cole, or are you gonna take any shots on Degrom at all, or how are you handling that situation for tournaments?
So I'm building 3 teams, and I don't think I'll get Degrom on one.
It's hard to make that decision. On FanDuel it's one thing because he's a little bit cheaper, but on DraftKings it's hard to justify because of how cheap Garrett Cole's cheaper. It's just hard to justify.
Yep.
And Degrom, we know he was limited. Like he threw 75 pitches and that's it. He got pulled. It wasn't like So definitely a tough situation.
I will say on FanDuel, I'm choosing one of those 2 and just going. Like I'm not even going beneath them.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. On FanDuel, there's no reason not to. You have so much money to work with. There's no reason.
So much
yes.
Like Paddock is like 4K almost cheaper than Degrom on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's he's for 1,500. It's like a major difference. Like just lock in that stud player up top on FanDuel.
Right.
There's value in the back. You can get the guys you want.
Right.
DraftKings, a little tighter.
Little toy. What about if you're going double mid tier today? If you were going to go that approach, I'm assuming Paddock is one of your guys. If not, correct me. But who's the other guy for you?
So I like any of Paddock Boyd, Paddock Woodruff, Paddock Haney, and Paddock Rich Hill. I think Haney's probably my favorite. I think Boyd has the highest ceiling of that group and will probably offer you some leverage because KC's going to be popular because of their price of their bats and how they've done lately. And then, like I said, I'm a little concerned about Woodruff not being himself, maybe not, needing a little more tune-up time, but he's in that mix in a good ballpark with a weak opponent. And then Rich Hill at 7.2, pairing that with Paddock, you're only using almost like 15.5K. You can get some serious bets in there. So those four, one, two, three, yeah, those four guys with Paddock being by far my favorite in that mid tier.
Sure enough. Let's move it over to the bat side of this. So I'm kind of up and down myself. Like I know what stacks I like, but for on DraftKings, like I said, I got one main team. On FanDuel, I got some more flexibility. I'm just doing 3 hand-built teams. Obviously, we have the Yankees. They seem to be on an island of their own, right? Clearly a great spot, great ballpark. They haven't played in a couple of days, so they're nice and rested. Going up against this Asher Wojciechowski guy who's got like a massive fly ball rate, massive hard contact rate, does have strikeout upside. But aside from that, they obviously seem to stand out above the rest. But on DraftKings, man, it is tough, man. You're looking at playing Musgrove and some of these other guys. If you really want to do a 5-man Yankees, obviously there's different Yankees you can pick. But if you really want to do a 5-man Yankees and pick the guys you like, it's not going to be easy, man. A lot of these Yankees are in the 5s. Most of the ones you want are in the 5s on DraftKings. So talk to me about the Yankees. How much are you playing the Yankees? What's going to be your approach looking at the slate?
Yeah, so I'm not in love with the Yanks. I actually have like respect for Wojciechowski. I mean, obviously in this park, in this weather, with that lineup, I'm not going to use him. But I think I'm going to limit my Yankee exposure to 3-mans and less. I think you kind of got to keep playing Stanton at this point. I think he's homered in every game that he's played in so far and has had multiple hits in those games. And he's just, historically been extremely streaky. So when he's hot, you just got to kind of ride it. Um, I can make a case for all of them, but I think at their prices, I'm going to prioritize getting in the pitching, and I'll probably only end up with 3-man Yankees. There's a handful of other offenses I'm just looking to play today. I just want to be, a little more contrarian and more concerned with fitting in the pitching that I want versus, jamming in the lineups that I want, because I think there's a lot of different bats that are in good spots. And, a 5-man Yankees, as we've mentioned, is just going to force you into pitchers you don't really want. And I'm not willing to sacrifice that today.
Yeah, nicely put, man. I'll tell you what, one thing for me on FanDuel, it's a lot easier to play the Yankees on FanDuel. And one of the things I like about playing the Yankees on FanDuel is Gary Sanchez is obviously a catcher. So a lot of times, I mean, listen, if the Yankees are popular, people are going to play Gary Sanchez. But you do oftentimes end up seeing players like Gary Sanchez, because of his catcher eligibility, get skipped. People prefer, maybe they pick a different first baseman. So I expect to see lower ownership there. The Yankees, it's funny because the Yankees are projecting to be popular. But if you look at the popular pitchers, it doesn't make sense. It's like, if those guys are the popular pitchers, then these Yankees can't be popular, because there's just, maybe some people do one-offs, maybe people do, like you said, 2 or 3-man stacks. But even so, they're so expensive that it's still very difficult to play a guy. Like if you were going like Garrett Cole and Chris Paddock, it's still hard to play too many Yankees. But I guess that's where the Royals come in as a value stack. With that said, let's talk about some of the other offenses on the slate that you got your eye on, Paulie.
Okay, so I liked what I saw out of the Dodgers and Astros yesterday. I mean, we had a couple good pitchers out there. They still put up runs, and then we had that little dust up. And I think, these teams have seen each other deep in the playoffs for the last few years. I think we see like one of these high scoring back and forth games. Both bullpens are somewhat taxed. Dodgers have not let their starters go deep. Plus, they lost Kershaw. And, Houston pitching staff, they just lost Verlander. This guy wasn't expecting to be pitching today. Like, you may see a lot of bullpen arms, and although they have some decent arms in the bullpen, I just think that, this is the most motivated teams right now on tonight's slate. And I like both these offenses. I think the Dodgers may get some ownership. I don't think Houston will have any. And they're 2 of the best offenses in baseball. So I've got interest in both of them. Shout out to Patio Joe, who pointed out Charlie Morton's velocity is down like almost 3 miles per hour. Nobody's going to be looking at the Braves today. They're in a good hitting environment in Atlanta. And, Charlie Morton got beat up by the Blue Jays his first start. They're going to be like 2% owned. They are like second in the baseball in home runs so far this year. Stack lineup. No one's going to have them. They've got some of my interest as well. Acuna, Albies, Freeman, Matty Adams, Ozuna. Dansby Swanson's been hot, and Austin Riley was hitting the shit out of the ball in the preseason. So Like them as well as kind of like a very contrarian upside stack. And then I like the Angels. Rendon came back yesterday, hit a home run. That kid Fletcher, I think, had 3 base hits. Otani had a double. Pujols hit a home run and got on base like 3 times. Really like this offense against a bullpen game from Seattle. Their bullpen's terrible, and this Angels offense is pretty deadly. And we saw last year that Park really started to become a little more offensively friendly. With I believe they shrunk the walls a little bit or pulled them in after the 18 season. So like the Angels quite a bit, and then I've got a little bit of interest in like the Tigers against Danny Duffy, DJ Crone, Scope, Nico Goodrum, Kristen Stewart, Jacoby Jones. Just that's a cheap stack to kind of 5-man up with a 3-man Yankees and still be able to get 2 good pitchers that I like. And lastly, I'll just touch on the Cardinals. Like I said, I could see myself using Rich Hill, but I could also see like a right-handed St. Louis stack with Paulie Goldschmidt, who's like the BVP play of the day, Tommy Edman, O'Neill, DeJong, and like probably Yadi Molina to round that out, or even one of the righties at the bottom of the order, Ravello or Bader. And in the same game on the opposite side, I do think Ponce de Leon's good, but the Twins offense, is just freakishly awesome, although I'm not that thrilled about this lineup. So they kind of have fallen off my interest list. So I would say Dodgers, Houston, Braves, and some Angels is where I'll predominantly be today.
Shout out to Patio Joe indeed, man. That's a good little tidbit right there about Morton. He obviously he got tagged up in that first start against Toronto, but velocity is a huge thing, man. You see somebody's velocity down, you jump on it. It's funny because I was looking into Morton and I kind of got a little scared away by the line movement. The Braves opened up minus 135. They're down to minus 115. I kind of just, I got a little nervous about it. But at the end of the day, the velocity speaks for itself. And the Braves are a very good offense. They're at home in a good hitting park. So I think that's actually a really good call. Shout out to you, Patio Joe. See you in the YouTube chat as well. I'm looking as far as so we talked about the Yankees already. I'll have some exposure to them. As far as the other stacks, I don't mind the Mets, though I'm more on a mini stack of the Mets. This is not a good. They're in Citi Field this time, not at Boston. But Eovaldi has still shown some pretty weak numbers against lefties, man. High hard contact rates, high fly ball rates. We got a lot of left-handed power there in McNeil. We got Conforto. We've got obviously Pete Alonso from the other side of the plate, and Yoenis. So they have hitters all around. I'm not going to be as heavy on the Mets as I was the last couple slates, but I do think that they're still somewhat in play, at least for a mini stack. The Royals stood out to me as like a cheap value stack. I'm with Paulie. I think Boyd is a pretty decent pitcher. We saw it last year. It works both ways. He's familiar with them, but they're also familiar with him. It's a situation where I think either Boyd dominates or Boyd gets lit up, and the Royals were the stack that helped get you in the pitching you needed with ceiling and to do the dirty that way. I do expect some of the Royal players to be very popular, like Sal Perez on DraftKings. Not on FanDuel, obviously, but on DraftKings, I expect them to be popular. They got a lot of cheap dudes, man. Yeah, you got like Franco, right? 2K batting 5th.
Yeah.
And just insanity. So there's a lot of cheap guys over there that'll help. And like, if you're not on Boyd and you do want the big pitching, you can utilize those guys to kind of, as a glue team, to kind of get you the pieces you want. One thing Paulie and I have talked about when we discuss stacks and things like that, sometimes when you do your work and you find 3 hitters you really, really want, and then you find the team to work around them to make it all work. And in this case, I have a feeling the Royals could kind of be that team for a lot of people. But keep in mind, you're going to be playing a lot of shitty players because that's what the Royals are. So there's some good players in there. I'm not trying to shit on them completely, but it is what it is. With that said, I also think the Milwaukee Brewers are kind of interesting. Now, again, this mentality was assuming that Musgrove was going to be popular. I'm not so sure how popular he's going to be at this point. But the reason I was into him is, like I said, Musgrove did give up a couple home runs in that first start. The Brewers have a lot of left-handed power, which is where you want to attack Musgrove. And we have actually, for Pittsburgh, we have some pretty good hitting conditions according to some of the weather metrics weather data that you may look at. So I think it's an interesting situation. We have a lot of great pitching. That usually means the offenses suffer a bit. I like Paulie's call on the Angels, always going very low owned, little late night hammer action. I do like to get exposure to late night teams. Last night was the opposite for us, right? Like me and Paulie, especially Paulie, were in good positions, and then all of a sudden you get these late games going. And it's just you start sinking a little bit. Paulie was close to having, with a $2,200 swing, right? Cost not you, just
last Pujols at bat. He got a walk. It had two Osimo teams, and one other guy passed me by less than 2 points to knock me from second to fifth in the late night donkey.
And that's just dirty, That's what else can you say?
Because it's up.
Yes. And Osimo, listen, Osimo knows I love him. He's a cool dude. We did the interview with him. Awesome guy, really friendly. But this is competition at the end of the day, bro. You know what I'm saying? We still want to win. I love Osimo. He's a cool dude, great guy. But we still want that win, man. And there's something about it when he beats you that stings a little extra. Because it was probably like his 500th team that like squeezed by you. But shout out to Osimo. He's off to a great MLB season so far. Bill builds a lot of teams, man. You got the bankroll, build a lot of teams, do dirties that way. If you can't do dirties that way, we're going to tell you how to do dirties our way. With that said, we'll open up the forum and see if there's any questions in here as we go and try to do our thing. I got to catch up, man. I wasn't even in this damn thing. Let's read some of this.
With the NBA kicking off tomorrow, you want to know, Will, something I did today?
What's that?
I surrounded I'm only building 3 teams on DraftKings, and they're in whatever GPPs I normally put them in, and then I back that up with cash games and double ups to protect my money.
Look at you, to make sure you have it for the next day, because the next day is the real slate.
Yeah. Well, not more so Friday NBA slate, not the 2-game, but
yeah. Oh, okay.
Thing. So, like $50 a piece for all 3 teams in just double ups and head to head behind my little, $15 and $20 GPPs.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm gonna read some of the comments until we get to some of the questions. King B says, been doing neighbors dirty since before I was 30. Let's go. I like it. King B. I like it, bro. I'm digging that. We got a question from Dudley Casey says, favorite 2 pitchers. I guess overall, who are your favorite 2?
Garrett Cole and Paddock.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's Garrett Cole and Paddock. Again, like, I have a perplexity to lean towards the ground, but that's only for ownership, and that's not always the best move. There's other places to get different. Garrett Cole and Paddock. If money ain't no thing, like a chicken wing. Shit, I had the chat. There we go. Moochie, is it Moochie? I think it's Moochie. Moochie Mob Ties asked about the Mets stack. Patio Joe already said he'd lay off the Mets. He thinks there's other ways to go. Paulie, you heard me talk about the Mets. I don't love them, but I did talk about them. I plan on working at least some of the guys in, whether it be one-offs or mini stacks. What are your thoughts on the Mets against Eovaldi?
I don't mind it. They're definitely going to be lower owned than they were the last few days. I love that Nemo's leading off. And the Boston bullpen is terrible. So, like, you get past him and, it's all gravy. But I like other spots slightly better.
Fair enough. I agree.
I really am, and I would probably include Dominic Smith in a Mets stack there.
Man, he doesn't get a ton of opportunities to play, but when he has gotten opportunities to play, he's done well. He has. Yeah. Oh yeah. The last time he played, he hit a dinger, so they had to do something. Our boy E Money says, "I got a dirty dozen lineups, but my neighbors don't." That's right. Neighbors don't got it, but you got it. That's how you do the dirty right there. Our boy Moochie says, how about a sneaky Orioles stack? The Orioles have been swinging the ball swinging the bat really well, especially the middle of that lineup.
If you want to play like Santander and like Dwight Smith or Rio Ruiz, those 2 or 3 guys to free up a ton of salary, no more than 2 of them would you really need. Okay, maybe you get a solo homer or a 2-run homer out of them. But otherwise, why? There's just that's literally the worst spot on the slate. Garrett Cole's the Cy Young last year. The Yankees have an incredible bullpen. So even if they do get to Cole, the Yankees are going to have a tight leash anyway once you start getting hit. It's just, if you play the slate 100 times, maybe the Orioles win the slate once. And I don't even know if that one time even happened. So I think that's getting a little too off the board. But if you want to play 1 or 2 of those bats to, fit in, I guess it would be Degrom in that case, and another high-end pitcher and a good stack. fine. But no way would I be doing any more than 2 Orioles in a lineup, and that's really probably not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I understand where you're coming from with the sneakiness and the leverage and all that. We totally get it. The issue is, like, I think on a smaller slate, first of all, not that they would make the spot any better, but on a smaller slate, it would be worth more. Like a smaller slate and nobody's playing them and they do dirties, you could really, really get ahead. On a 9-game slate, even if Baltimore does well, which the probability of that happening is very low, there's probably going to be some other team out there where you didn't have to take as big of a risk that's going to do just as well, if not better. So I agree with Paulie in that I think that if you wanted to go that route, not playing Garrett Cole may be enough. You want to take 1 or 2 hitters because they fit or you like them, you got a hunch.
Salary save, yeah.
Exactly. But I agree with Paulie. I like to save those leverage kind of situations a little bit more so on either the spot is juicy and like this guy should not be chalk because he sucks, which is not the case with Garrett Cole. He's probably him and Degrom, in my opinion, are the 2 best pitchers in the league. I just don't have any interest in it. Again, a smaller slate would take you a little further. But in the meantime, I think by you just not playing Garrett Cole, that would be you getting contrarian enough, I think, at this point. $1 for $1. Let's see what else we got up in the question. Pinstripe says, what up, fellas? What up? Good to see you, Pinstripe Pimp. Patricia Stickle says, Cole, Yankees, Detroit, good luck. Holla. Pinstripe Pimp agrees. Let's see here. Which 2 Yankee bats would you say are musts on DraftKings? That's from Yehuda Blonder.
I don't think any of them are a must, but Stanton would be number 1 and probably Judge number 2.
Yeah, right. I mean, one thing about Paulie, like, it's funny because normally I would stay away from Stanton in general and on this slate because Astro's a strikeout guy, Stanton's a strikeout guy. But one thing that Paulie hit on the head with Stanton is he's a very streaky player. And if he's in the groove, you just don't want to stand in front of that. If you are playing the Yankees, I understand like if it's a money thing or if it's an ownership thing because they have some. It's interesting. Like, what's his name? The first baseman you guys got, Ford, right? He's 5'3" on DraftKings. He's 2'2" on FanDuel. So it's kind of like you just get your exposure where it fits, and like you want to incorporate ownership. So if you are playing a lot of Yankees and you're playing both sides, take advantage of the. Think about it, right? Like Sanchez is like 5'3" on DraftKings. He's cheaper on FanDuel, and he's going to have less ownership because he's catcher, and people don't like to play catchers over there. So just when you're doing this, like use your head when you kind of do it, right? When you kind of build these teams, you kind of use your head going into it, and do dirties that way. Joey says Glaber, Stanton, Hicks for FanDuel is Joey's favorite 3-man. Glaber hit 13 home runs last year against Baltimore. That is a good tidbit, man. He crushed Baltimore last year. He loved playing Baltimore. That is for sure. I'm pretty sure I have Glaber in all of my Yankee stacks, or at least the ones I bet by hand. Brian Campbell, my brother, says Polar Bear goes yard, and Jimenez is worth $2K. Full disclosure, though, my brother is a giant Mets homer. With that said, Mr. Papa Giorgio 10, any thoughts on a twin stack?
So I really don't like the lineup they rolled out, but they're one of the most explosive offenses out there. I do have respect for Ponce de Leon, so all those factors have kind of pulled me off of them. But I would never talk anyone off a twin stack ever. They're just so talented, but I'm not that into it today.
Yeah, I think they did make one of my teams on FanDuel, and it was more like they kind of fit what I was looking for. Like Paulie said, if you have a room and you fall into it, you're never going to say no. You're never going to tell somebody don't stack the Twins. They led the league in homers last year. You're just not going to do that. But I do agree that like it's not my favorite spot. Now again, as somebody, I've got like 2 teams on DraftKings where I built by hand. I've got 3 on FanDuel, and even so at 5 teams they made one, but it was honestly more because they fit with the other team I was stacking on FanDuel. So if they do well, I'm not going to take the credit and be like, oh, I love them so fucking much because that just wasn't the case. Speaking of run totals, one team that you talked about, I didn't really talk about much. The Dodgers' run total has really grown. 0.4 runs so far. Opened up -130. They're up to -148. The total went from 9.5 to 10. I know you discussed them, and I know we talked about the Astros being a little bit lower owned. How popular do you think the Dodgers are going to end up being?
Not popular at all.
Tricky dicky.
So really like Bellinger, Betts, Muncy, Justin Turner's been swinging such a great bat. I think he's got like 6 or 7 doubles, and like the next closest guy is 3. Jock Peterson's in the lineup. Matt Beatty's batting 8th. He's probably gonna be cheap, but you got to watch out for pinch hitter. But I just like that. That whole scuffle happened last night. These teams have a lot of fucking playoff history, and I think we see both teams motivated and lots of bullpen and lots of runs.
I feel you, man. Definitely, as the kids would say, there's beef in these streets, no doubt, no doubt. Let's see what else we got here. Clean Clan says, "What's the catcher that you're going with today? Just need a catcher and a shortstop. You got a favorite catcher out there?"
Well, the chalk one is definitely Sal Perez, but and let's see. I like Travis d'Arnaud a little bit from the Braves. I always like Gary the Goat. I'm cool with Yadi Molina. Jason Castro of the Angels, I like. It's probably Omar Narvaez of Milwaukee too. I wouldn't mind. But the chalk one is Sal Perez for good reason. I think he's got 3 already, or definitely at least 2, and he's facing a lefty in good weather environment.
And he's dirt cheap.
Bad bull. He's dirt cheap. Yeah, but catches.
Nobody ever said pimping was easy. That's all I'm saying. Nobody ever said pimping was easy. You know, wouldn't say it because that would be a lie. We wouldn't want to do that to you. Pinstripe Pimp, would you rather play Frazier or would rather play for other people? It's a statement. Tony A says, how about Tucker and Brantley for cheap?
Yes, I like the Astros.
Holla. Blonder, we already touched on the Minnesota stack. We have Dudley Casey. Dudley Casey wants to know double dong call.
Cody Bellinger.
Cody B. I was thinking the same thing. I shit you not. In my head, I don't know why. I'll go with Muncy. I wrote him in the article, so I'll go Muncy. But for some reason, when I read double dong call in my head, Cody Bellinger popped in. I'm actually gonna build a Dodger stack on FanDuel. After talking about this, I may do a game stack of that game. I'm gonna just try to do whatever it takes and do a game stack of that fucking game. You know, it's like playoff shit right there, man. You know, even though they're in opposite, AL, NL, whatever. Fuck it like a bucket.
Yeah, but that's the World Series.
Yeah, it'd be the World Series right there. That's the ultimate playoffs.
Yeah,
don't get no better.
That World Series that went 7 games. It was awesome.
Hell yeah. Elliot says pay down at both pitchers. Paddock, Haney.
Yeah. Definitely like that combo a lot.
For sure. He asked us, is it safe? I think Paddock is somewhat safe. Heaney is, I think, a great ceiling, great tournament play. I wouldn't call him safe ever, even against Seattle, just because he's Heaney. So if you're looking for safety, if we're talking cash games, maybe not. But if you're talking tournaments, I can go for it, man. You get the thumbs up right there. All day. Tony A says, who's a good low-owned stack? Joey says Braves. We tend to agree with him. Yeah, velocity's down. I think that makes sense.
Braves, Angels, and
Holla for $1. Freeman or Adams from Wig, longtime White Take Nation OG.
I hate that we have to make that decision.
I know.
It's always Freeman, in reality, but it sucks to have to leave out Adams, and because you want both those left-handed bats against Morton.
No doubt. It's so hard to say. Like you said, you want them both. And on FanDuel, you can play them both. It is so hard to ever say Adams over Freeman because Freeman is that damn good, even with the Rona.
Yeah.
Cooper says, I need a catcher and a shortstop, please. Another catcher and shortstop combo. We got a lot of those. It's hard to say without knowing what site you're playing, without knowing what money you have to work with. If you need a cheap catcher, we talked about Sal Perez, but he's going to be chalk. If you got money to spend, Paulie mentioned Narvaez from Milwaukee. Gary Sanchez we have on the slate. So there are some guys, just a matter of what you're working with. Travis d'Arnaud is another cheapo, lower-owned cheapo, if you want somebody that's low-owned and cheap.
Yadi and DeJong would probably be my favorite combo.
Boom. Yadi DeJong. He just dropped it on you real quick. Dropped it on you. Let me see. We talked about the top 3 Yankees already. I went back and forth. I can't come off Pittsburgh on FanDuel. Wig3 says, would you use a 4K relief pitcher on DraftKings for the savings?
No.
Wig, I think we have too much ceiling to work with today. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe all these pitchers are limited, and so nobody has a ceiling. I personally feel like we have too many good options that can give us 20s or higher on DraftKings. I just don't see taking a guy that at best is going to get you a 10. You know?
Best.
Best. I mean, I would rather find the 1300 from Musgrove. Put it that way. We can find 1300. Well, you can do it.
Yeah.
Joey.
Or even that guy, he's, he might only go 3 innings, but he throws like 99. He's a big K upside guy. He struck out like 130 over 117 innings. So if you're looking to punt, at least get a guy that's going to go 3 innings. But a reliever, that's getting way too fancy for this slate. You don't need to do that.
I got a personal question for you, Paulie. Personal as in from me. Still about baseball. Seager or Correa? For a dollar. He got a little motivation going on right now, right? They threw at him a little bit. Joey has a question. What's the best 4-man Dodger stack on FanDuel? From Joey Joe, who is a Dodger fan. So he's trying to take his own bias out of this. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah, FanDuel wise, Cody, Muncy. I mean, Cody, Muncy, Betts, Turner is probably the best, but I like Jock Peterson a lot too, and I'm sure that saves you a couple bucks.
Yeah, Jack Sharp. What about Mookie, man? He's really kind of just off to a slow start, huh?
Yeah, I mean, but he can do it so many different ways. He can steal bases.
It's true.
And, he's gonna double down and be right back in the mix. It's like he just slow start for 4 games.
It is true.
Don't expect it to last.
It is true. No, you could definitely expect him to turn around at some point. Wick says Correa. Wick thinks Correa might be scared when he's at bat. Hey, I think all the Astros might be a little scared right now, man. The guy, Joe Kelly, props to him. Not that I condone the violent behavior or whatever, but they cheated. It is what it is. It's the truth. Joe Kelly let him know, called them all punk ass bitches. Maybe he didn't say those words exactly, but my translation of them was that they were punk ass bitches. So hey, that to me that's baseball, man. They cheated. You got to suffer the consequences, man. You guys freaking, hey, is what it is. I don't see any other questions, so I think we're gonna get up out of here. Paul, anything in closing before we roll up out here? We got about 15-20 minutes to lock, so we'll get a chance to build our teams, finalize them, and we'll roll.
Yeah, NBA tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Again.
sir. So tonight we got a busy stream night. We got the PGA show going later tonight. We're also going to do, me and Paul are going to do the first NBA stream. Like I said, I got some shit going on tomorrow, so we'll be doing it tonight. And then I think after that, I might actually be doing the MLB stream late tonight for tomorrow's slate, because I will be attending, things that are important. So yeah, definitely dirty. So with that said, hit the like button if you haven't already. Appreciate hanging out with you guys. Good to be back and very excited for baseball to start. It's a great time to be a part of the Wise Take Nation. So if you don't know what that is, you can subscribe for the free stuff. You can like the video, that helps us out. But go check us out at wisetake.com if you really want to be in on the nation and see some of the benefits, our projections, our cheat sheets, the articles, everything, Slack chat, stack rankings, whatever it may be. Go check us out. We got day passes for $2.50 all day. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire Wise Take Nation, as always, good luck.